get in there and try to mess around in your head and get you to believe different stuff, you know. But, you know, look at what we do believe. So, well, you know, how did we learn to believe in all that stuff? You know, what did you believe in when you were 6 months old? Were you a Democrat or Republican when you were 6? 6 months old. You were nothing. Everything we are, we let someone train us to believe in that paradigm. So the whole nation still believes in the paradigm of get a good education, get a good job, good benefits, good companies, going to go out of business. They still believe in that. If they don't go out of business, the only reason they don't go out of business is because they're smart enough to bankrupt their way out of your pension and your health care benefits. Including if you work for a municipality. How far is Stockton from here? You just about shoot a .22 rifle to Stockton. Bankrupt. What if you worked for the city of Stockton the last 40 years? Sorry. So we believe in that paradigm, but we don't believe in the paradigm of independence. One of the choices you have to make here, make it today, maybe you've already made it, maybe you're going to make it next week, next month, maybe you're never going to make it. Or you actually make the decision if you don't make the one we're suggesting you make. You either make the decision in life to be independent or dependent. Most people make the decision because they've been programmed to make a career choice, a lifestyle choice, a financial choice to be dependent. And so they go to work for somebody who did believe in their dreams. And they work the rest of their life dependent on that business owner, whether it's corporation, public, private, sole proprietor, dependent on that business owner to maintain enough success for as long as that dependent employee needs to be taken care of to be able to be taken care of. It is crazy. That's high risk. High risk. To put your entire future in somebody else's hands? What if they get sick? What if they get tired? What if their business paradigm just becomes outdated? You know, one of the things you could just count your blessings that you're in the fitness business. Because there's a whole bunch of people in network marketing that are in businesses staking their entire lives and futures and reputations on some goofy, shiny product that's going to be completely obsolete in 9 months. Oh, I might have touched a nerve there. Might be a few of these people that have been looking at some of those shiny little objects on the internet. Oh!
Preach it, Richard. Preach it.
The latest one is called Ripple or something.
Oh, Lord, no, what is it?
No. It's a cancer.
It'll rip you a new one.
So, let me tell you my independent or dependent. You make a decision, a declaration, a commitment, an I am statement, and then step into it and live the rest of your life out of it, that I'm going to be independent. That doesn't mean you quit your job and dive into something like this. You be strategic about it. You could always have a job. You could always keep a job. Think how cool it would be to have a job that you made $5,000 a month at, and you got $5,000 a month coming from Visalis every month. How cool would that be? I mean, you always got enough money to be able to tell your boss, I don't think so. They call that a certain kind of money. I don't think so money. That'd be pretty cool, right? Going full-time in network marketing is not the smartest thing to do. You know, if you make $5,000 a month in network marketing, like residual income, like you've built a business, you could step away from it, you're making $5,000 a month every month, you're in the top 1/10 of 1%, maybe even less. That's rarefied air. Rarefied air. Yeah. Well, maybe not in Visalis, because you guys have been screaming for the last months.
Woo!
Yeah, I've heard all about it. That's not jealousy. It's pure admiration. But if you look at the entire industry, that's rarefied air, $5,000 a month. So you quit your job and you're going to go full time. Well, the first thing that happens to full-timers is just like Tara said, they get up in the morning, they call a couple of people, and everybody's at work. There's no one to play with. Then they figure out after a while, one of the secrets that we've learned as full-time networkers, I'm a little different, but there's not that much to do. There really isn't. I mean, I guess you could go talk to 25 people a day. If you want to have 5 parties a day, there's not that much to do. And so you're making $5,000 a month as a full-time networker. Guess what? You're broke like everybody else. Even if you're making $10,000 a month, broke like everybody else. That's no money. You keep your job, and you got an extra $5,000 a month coming in on top of your job. You are 10 feet tall and bulletproof. You can start putting that money into almond orchards. Independent or dependent. Take your pick. Choosing to be independent doesn't mean you quit a job. Just which one you bank on. Bank on. So I'm going to tell you a story about this book. This is a Go for No story. It's even in the video Go for No, but I don't think I told it as well as I'm going to tell it to you. And I'm going to be much briefer about it. So I wrote that book in about, 1990, 95. I had it as a manuscript for almost 5 years before I even put it like in a hardback book. But one of the visions I had around that book is I was so enthralled with the brilliance of me to write that book. I was so impressed. I mean, when it came off from the printers like this, wow. That's pretty cool. I wrote that. Anybody can write a book. Paradigm's a little different. You don't have to have a publisher give you $1 million. You just write it and then give it to a printer and give them a check and say, print this. You now are an author. So that's how I did it. But I had this vision, this technology about how to actually create stuff on purpose. I'm going to take this global, and who's going to help me do it is Oprah.
That's right.
Yeah. So I decided I was going to get Oprah to read this book and get a vision, one of my visions of every kid in America and eventually the world is a card-carrying visionary. They got their vision on a laminated card just as important as their driver's license. They pull that thing out and they read their 5 most important vision statements, and they understand that they can be in charge of their own belief development system. They don't have to be stuck with their parents, who is actually their grandparents, who's actually their great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents. We'll just go this another 10 generations, and we have all been raised by Neanderthals. You can't break that cycle and create your own beliefs. So I think Oprah reads this book. She's gonna be ringing me up. Hey, get over here. Plus, I also had another vision that, if anybody could crush, and I don't mean to create competition for you, but it might sharpen you up a little bit if you had somebody, that you had to pay attention to. But I had this vision of if anybody could crush a network marketing company, it'd be Oprah. Think about it. Skincare or nutrition or whatever, Oprah. I'm launching a women's empowerment movement, MLM, financial freedom. Yeah, you buy salads, people will be scurrying for the hills. Whoa! No, it's not a weight loss. Well, she probably wouldn't do weight loss because she wouldn't be a good role model for it. She's pretty it's true. You put her on the challenge. So anyway, here's my vision. I'm thinking if I send her this book, she will get a hold of the book, she'll catch that vision, and I also wrote her this whole letter about how she could create a network marketing company and be $1 billion overnight, just like that, and she could crush Amway. She could be $50 billion a year. Whole one-page letter, painted the whole picture for her and everything. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, the last thing I want to do is call Oprah and get hung up on, and I'm not going to go through that. So I just put my follow-up, my invitations, if you will, on auto order, auto dial, auto mail. I sent this book to Oprah and the letter, original letter on my letterhead, twice a week for 5 years.
Oh my God.
Now you might visualize, oh, he actually didn't. No, I didn't. I just told somebody to do it. I have people. So if you send this book to this address with this letter twice a week, I don't want you to ever ask me that I want you to keep doing it. Just do it forever. Don't tell me anything about it. And my vision was, I know I sent that book once and, somebody's going to call me back. No. Here was my vision about how somebody's going to call me back. Somebody's going to go to Oprah after, if you add it up, that's
500.
Yeah, over like 500 books. So, but I didn't calculate right. But my vision was that the storage mail room was going to have like pallets of books. And finally, somebody's going to go to Oprah and say, "What do you want us to do with these books?" Want to know if it worked?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was in California, and my assistant called me one day. This was only like 3 years ago. She said, "Guess what?" I mean, I'd actually forgotten about it. I think it might have actually been 7 years. She said, "Guess what?" I said, "What?" "We got a letter from Harpo Productions." Wow. Awesome. Read it to me. Dear Mr. Brooke, please cease and desist from legal counsel Harpo Productions. And he had even added a little paragraph on the bottom. We got our own ideas about how we're going to do business, and we don't need any input from you.
Wow.
It worked. I got a response. So here's what I want you to think about in terms of belief. There is a core duplication activity that you already intellectually know works. And that is, somebody can get 3 people to get on this challenge. You got 3 people, your product's for free. Everybody that you might think to invite, that's kind of one of the first things they're going to do. I mean, there's all kinds of things to do. I got a headache back there looking at all the things that there is to do. So I was kind of listening for, if you only did one thing, what's the one thing that if you did that is like sort of a model that you could duplicate over and over and over and over again, and then everything else takes care of itself. And the model I saw is get 3 and your product's free. Mm-hmm. Now what you know about that is it's pretty hard to get 3 and not have at least 1 or 2 of them if you follow up. Eventually, want to know where you got that BMW or they ask, right? Yeah. So it's a funnel for new distributors. So if you lose a customer to become a distributor, what do? You go get another customer. It's a feeder system. So you could forget about everything else in the business other than get 3 and yours is free. Mm-hmm. So now what I want you to ask yourself going out of here, think about in the next few days or weeks is everybody that you think about asking, ask yourself, could they get 3? Could they? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how you'll know the answer is not by whether or not you say yes. That's not how you'll know the answer to the question. How will you know the answer to the question? You ask it. So as long as there's somebody on a names list, you ask the question, could that person get 3 and get their product free? Yes or no? How do we know you're telling the truth? You called them. Ah. Once you call them, somebody else pops up on the names list. I don't remember if it was Michael or Chris or who it was. They spent a lot of time on names lists. Maybe it was Lisa. But, the names list is so important. You got to have hundreds and hundreds of people constantly in front of you who are screaming at you to call them for you to stay in massive action. You can't have like 5 people on your list. What you'll end up doing is pacing yourself. Because you don't want to run out. That actually happened to me once. I had a guy I was coaching and working on names lists and inviting and all this kind of stuff, and we're working through like a 3 or 4 week program, and he's inviting like 1 person a week. So I called him out on it. What's up with that? He said, well, I got 12 people on my list. I like this company. I like this opportunity. I like being trained by you. I don't want to run out of prospects and be out of the program. I learned a huge lesson there. I've told that story 1,000 times since then. Why? Because how many people are on your names list is huge. If you have 12 people, you're going to pace yourself. You need 100 people who are screaming at you, and the only question you need to ask yourself is, if they wanted to, you're not in control of whether or not they want to. If they wanted to, could they get their product for free? Yeah, they could. Now they're in, see? Now they're in. So if they're getting their product for free, can they do the rest?
Wow.
Yeah, because what's the rest? Well, the rest is they've got 3 people who are using the product who are paying for it. Pretty simple question, customer who's paying for the product. Do you want to keep paying for it? Or do you want to get it free? What do you think they're going to say? I love paying for this stuff. They're going to say free. Well, let me show you how to do what I did. What they do. They just got 3 people and now it's free. That's all you need to duplicate to make gazillions of dollars, because that duplicatable piece of your business is the core of it. It's the core of this book I wrote called The 4-Year Career. I wrote that book because everybody I seemed to work with in the business was just, they were excited. They were excited and they wanted to make all kinds of money and make the thing work, but they were confused about it. They just didn't understand at a core level, how does this thing really work? So I just picked a multiplier of 4. I picked 4 years because that's how long it actually takes for geometric progressions to actually take hold. People you get going today, they're not going to earn you the money for another 4 or 5 years. Those geometric progressions just take time to duplicate. I also had a whole presentation about comparing this to a 4-year college education, which I have an article about that. I think something like an education you can take to the bank on my website. 4 years here instead of 4 years in school. But the whole thing was based on you getting 4 people. So, in your business, your model could be 3. So the question is, can you get 3? Do you think you can get 3 people to do this?
Yes.
Yes, you can get 3 people to do this. Well, if they're doing it, then don't you think they could get 3 people to do this? I mean, really, that's not hard at all. If you ever think, I don't know if I could do anything. I think Tara used this beautifully. If I gave you $1,000 to get 3 people in the next 24 hours, and you couldn't tell them about the $1,000, and you couldn't give them any of the money, could you get 3?
Yes.
Of course you could. Would you? Would you? There's 2 questions that need to be asked. Could you and would you? So the first place that people have to get to by letting ViSalus get into them is they have to get to a place where if I ask the question, could you? They not only answer it intellectually, yes, they answer it with their body. They vote with their feet. They're doing it. They're just in massive action. You ever want to know what your problem is in this business, all you have to do is look at your stats the last 90 days. One of the breakthrough, rock star, professional, most brilliant thing you can do is keep your stats. How many people did you invite to look at this last week? The week before, the week before, the week before, the week before, the week before? How many presentations did that result in? How many people got in the business as a result of that? Customers. Keep your stats. So you gotta believe that you can do it, and then you have to believe that it's worth it. that it's worth it. And that's where people melt down in this business, because culturally we have been conditioned that the worth it quotient is, well, if you do something that's a little difficult or a little uncomfortable or hard work, then you should get all the money now. And we didn't set the cheese up that way. Cheese is set up different here. You don't even want to know what you get paid by the hour your first year here. You don't want to know. It's horrible what you get paid by the hour. It's ridiculous in most cases. And the second year it might be, it might be tolerable. The third year, it's like there's something weird going on. All of a sudden, Now, I'm not talking about Lisa or Tara's rock star example. I'm talking about you and me, okay? How many of you struggled to get out of high school? Go ahead. I'm talking about us, okay? Did you ever get your picture taken in high school by the... Yeah. Yeah, I don't mean by the year for the yearbook either. Yeah.
Does Rob say come get your son?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm talking about us, okay? Normal people. And I'm going to tell you my story and be done. But I'm talking about us believing. You got to believe that it's worth it. So I can only give you like a thumbnail of this. If you want to know more about it, go read the article called What If on my website. So here's the question. What if everybody you invited to take a look, whatever your script is, but in essence is, just take a look at this. Take a look at the 9-day challenge, take a look at the income opportunity, whatever you say. What if everybody that you invited to take a look, by Salas, do you guys have a debit card? Do you get paid on a card?
Yeah, prosperity card.
What if every time you asked somebody to take a look, and you documented that, just like, I don't know, you put it on Facebook, or you put it in your back office, or you emailed the corporate headquarters and you said, I just asked, what's your name? I just asked Anthony, what's your last name? Tate, to take a look. And here's his email address. So if you want to verify it, you can. I just asked him to take a look. I gave him a tool, whatever. And I document that. And every time you document, you invited somebody to take a look, by Salas dropped $100 on your card.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Think about it. Now, there's only one condition. You got to average, and they'll do it on a monthly basis. You got to average one a day. So they'll drop $3,000 on your card every month, but you got to document 30 invites. You document 29. You can throw all the hissy fit you want and excuse and drama and send all the emails you want, and the computer just doesn't care about you. You're not getting paid. 30 documented invites. $3,000, $100 a piece. You do 60, you get $6,000. $100 a piece, no limit on the upside. $100 a piece, no limit on the upside, but you got to do at least average of one a day. Are you clear?
Yes.
$100 a piece.
Yes.
So how many of you would do? Think about it. Actually think about it. You can actually see yourself. You can feel your body out there. Wow. Just actually think about that. Visualize that. What would your life be like in the next 30 days if you had to do at least 30, but you got paid $100 a piece, even if you did 400? Can you visualize what your next 30 days would be like?
Oh, yeah.
Busy.
You want to know what your next 30 days would be like?
Massive action.
It would be like their first 30 days. That's what your next 30 days would be like they did it. You want what they got, right?
Absolutely.
So if you read this article, one of the things that you'll understand is if you just do 2 a day for a couple of years, well, that will result in X number of presentations. and X number of presentations result in X number of enrollments. And here's what I can tell you, regardless of your company, and your company, it's like, kind of like throwing gas on a fire, but it doesn't matter what company you're in. You could even be in a lousy company. And if you personally sponsor 50 people a year for the next 2 years, I can pretty much guarantee you what your income is going to be year 5. If you personally sponsor 50 people a year for the next 2 years, unless you're like some kind of weirdo, I mean, psychopath, stalking, whack job. If you're just D minus or above, and you personally sponsor 50 people a year for the next 2 years, year 5, you will make at least, even in the worst company, 10 grand a month.
Yep.
At least. And it wouldn't surprise any of us if you made 50.
I've only personally enrolled 50 promoters in the last 2 years and took turned my one-time investment into what is now a $40,000 a month income. Back over to you.
Okay, that's really not what have you been doing?
I don't know.
You gotta gear up, sister.
I do. I'm up for the
You could be in a millionaire.
That's right. What are you?
But you know what?
You're slouching.
Hey, I've enrolled 12 over the last 3 months.
Now we're talking.
Now we're talking. Man, I got to be a better upline.
So here's how this calculation. Well, you just go to you go read that article. You'll see how everybody's not worth 100. They're worth at least 200.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is believe it.
Yep.
I believe it. They believe it. So here's my story. I got 8 minutes to tell.
No, you can have more. This is the best story. You won't want to miss any part of it. Come on, Richard.
I'm telling you, I got
I've been
more.
waiting
I'll
for
keep
it.
you
do it,
all
Stan.
right. Go order some food. We got
You just keep going. If you have to leave, go. You just keep going.
We'll make some shakes out here. We'll make some shakes.
food. All right. So
Tell your story.
so it's 1974. Let's see. Well, my senior year in high school, I actually left home when I was just out of my junior year. It was an interesting exchange with my mother as I departed, dearly departed the house. She said something about me, and I said something about her, and I moved out. And I actually lived with 3 of my high school buddies in a house my senior year. I was the night manager of the Atwater 7-Eleven at Castle Air Force Base. 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. I ran that 7-Eleven. Guess who worked for me? My 3 buddies that I lived with. Yeah, well, that was my night job. I also had a day job at Pearson's Arco in Merced. And so then the house of thieves that the 4 of us lived in, that, I don't know, something happened and that all blew up. And so I ended up living at Pearson's Arco my senior year in high school. I worked there during the day, in my cab over camper with my dog. Don't feel sorry for me. I was having fun. It was good. I was right across the street from the high school. I had a 3/4 ton GMC long bed pickup with a cab over camper on it. I had my dog. I worked at the gas station. I plugged in a garden hose and an extension cord. And well, I was set. Life was good. And but then, one day, Ken Pearson, I closed up the gas station oftentimes too, and one day he came to me the next morning and he said, hey, Anthony, you didn't lock the door of the gas station last night. I was probably too busy giving gas to my friends in exchange for fast food, because they worked at the fast food place, burgers for gas, kind of barter system. I am a much better person now than I was in high school. I didn't lock the front door of the gas station. I don't have to exaggerate. I have crazy stories. They're all true. Dead, solid true. I did not lock the front door of the gas station. He gave me the lecture about his life savings, the most important, his kids going to college. This is his whole life. Guess what I did the next night? I didn't lock it again. Not intentionally. People probably came by and said, "Hey, when are you closing up? Let's go. Let's hit the streets." Bailed out of there, forgot to lock. So the next day he said, "Hey, I love you." And he was actually like a father figure to me. And, he said, "You got to go. You got to go." So I went to work at Foster Farms for $3.05 an hour, and my job was to cut chickens up. And somebody earlier today was talking about a hard job. Was it hard to do what Tara and Lisa does? Is that hard to have that many people and have that many meetings, have that many phone calls and all that kind of stuff? I'll tell you what's hard is cutting chickens for 530 minutes a day. Have anybody ever done that? You have in a production line? No. Anybody ever been inside Foster Farms? And you have been inside? So how did you get in?
I was a vendor for them.
What did you sell?
The soda machines.
Yeah. So you've seen the production lines.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard. What is your name?
Rob.
Rob, it's hard to describe for people that process, but I'm going to try to explain it to you. I got to get rid of this mic. You'll be able to hear me. So I want you to imagine this thing is made out of steel, and it's kind of like a coat hanger, but it's a steel rod that's about that big around, and it comes down like this, and then it has a hook on it. And it is fastened to like a conveyor belt kind of thing. It's actually a chain. And it's on a track, and it's solid, like these, they call them shackles. And those shackles are hanging from that conveyor belt, that little track, one right after another, in an entire loop that would be as large as this room. Like, if I'm standing cutting chickens and they're going by me, this conveyor belt would go to the wall, it'd go all the way down that wall, it'd go around the back wall, and come up this wall, and like that. And there's shackles on it solid. There's no empty spaces, it's all shackles. This is a production line where the bird gets cut up into pieces. You buy them in those yellow trays. So, some of that stuff's been frozen for 35 years. Anyway, so way back in the back room, they got these great big steel tanks that are loaded with crushed ice, and they're loaded with chickens. Dead, gutted, plucked chickens, head and feet cut off. And they put them in those tanks to ice them down, because Foster Farms is fresh.
They started live, right?
Oh yeah, they were live 5 minutes before they were thrown in those tanks with all ice. So somewhere in the back, and I did this job too, you reach into this tank, you got rubber gloves on, you stab your hands into this tank of ice that has hundreds of birds in it, and you grab a bird and you throw them up in the air and grab them just right and hang them on these shackles 2 at a time. Those people are called hangers. There's dead hangers and live hangers. Live hangers grab the birds out of the truck, and they're like hanging them up, and then I was a dead hanger. You grab the dead birds, hang them on the shackle. So now these birds are hanging by their ankles like this. Okay? And they go around. So if you're looking at the line, it would be like, if the tank was back there, there'd be solid birds coming up here, just solid birds. And the first person that the bird comes to is called the wing person. There are 2 wing people. And so I'm just going to demonstrate what cutting wings at Foster Farms is like. So these wings are like this. Okay, the bird's hanging upside down. Okay, they're like this. So what you do is you grab the wing between these 2 fingers as it comes by. You grab it at the like this part, and you just push it down to separate that joint a little bit. And then you got a knife, you push it down, and you don't cut, you just stab. You stab through that joint, and you drop the wing down in the tray, and as you lay it down there, she packs it in the tray. There's 2 wing people. There's a left wing person and a right wing person. So what you're doing if you're a wing person is, this is what you do for 530 minutes a day. That's a 9.5-hour day net of breaks and lunch. This is what I did for at least a year. One of these jobs. Every day. 6 days a week, most of the time. Just like this. Oh. Oh, look at you guys. You're already like bored and freaked out. We've been doing this 9 seconds. You have 529 minutes and 50 seconds to go. Now, maybe you're asking, well, how do you know how fast to go? Oh, I know exactly how fast to go. 38 BPM.
38 birds per minute.
The line runs exactly 38 BPM. How many wings will you cut?
38 minutes. Wow.
You're going to cut more than that because after a while, even if you hit that joint perfectly, the knife gets dull. So what you got to do is you got to cut up ahead, and then you got to grab your steel and sharpen up your knife while these birds are going up here. And when they get ready, you got to grab them. That's what you do for 530 minutes a day. You got a steel mesh glove on this hand. These birds are darn near frozen. They're like 34 degrees. Oh. This is what you do. That's what I did for 530 minutes a day. Can you imagine what a human brain looks like after a year doing that? And by the way, I was one of like 4 people that spoke English in the entire plant. Portuguese? Fala português? Spanish? Or Hindu? Sikh? Those are the 3 languages spoken in the chicken plant. I was the white kid who spoke English. So they're looking at me as management potential. I didn't know anything about that. What was that thing about favoritism if you're a certain race? What's that called?
Discrimination?
I don't know. Illegal.
Discrimination.
Opportunity?
Anyway, you know what I mean. So anyway, that's what I did for a living. And I eventually got so good at it, they let me teach other people how to do it. Oh. Yeah, and then I got a red hat. Everybody else had a white hat. I had a red hat. You got a red hat. You walk around, you kind of like.
Like a black jacket.
Red hat. Then I told my boss where he could go in front of his boss. And then I got a white hat again. Anyway, I tell too much chicken story. So, the guy that got me the job at the chicken plant, he left the chicken plant. Good friend of mine. Went to high school with him. He worked at the chicken plant. He worked at Ragu Spaghetti Sauce. He was also a part-time independent pharmaceutical rep. It's hard to have people remember 1974, okay? Most people were part-time pharmaceutical reps in 1974. So he left the chicken plant, and one day he calls me up, and he's got this. It's like an incredible hype, worst thing, anti-Michael presentation about how to prospect and recruit people. It's like, you need to come down to this meeting, and we're going to make a lot of money, and I was actually kind of in a meeting when he called, and so I cut him off, and I said, hey, and this guy had no credibility with me at all. None. He was a buddy, but kind of called me up, talking about making a lot of money. He didn't know anything about making money. So I cut him off and got off the phone. He calls me back just like we got disconnected on a cell phone conversation in 1974. He's like, more and more, ramping up, same thing, and I just cut him off again. It's actually 1977. He called me back a 3rd time. So this was my enrollment, take a look conversation, the one that actually got me. I answered the phone. He said, Brooke, what? He said, you're out. And he hung up on me. So a couple weeks later, I was close to his house. Now this guy, every time you ever saw him, hair down to here, no shoes, cut-offs, shirtless, smoking a joint, listening to the Doors. That's the only way I knew this guy. His name is Steve Spalding. His nickname is Goon. He's 6'8". Was, rest in peace. So I go to his house. He's sitting on his living room in I don't make any of this stuff up. I don't even exaggerate it. I don't have to. A pink polyester three-piece suit. He's 6'8". The suit looked like your shirt.
Awesome.
His hair is just a little bit longer than mine. All cut off.
Wow.
Tie. He's sitting around with 4 or 5 friends, and they're feasting on the most expensive deli cuts that you can buy in Merced County. The kind of stuff our parents ate. We didn't eat that stuff. So I walk in and I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "We're celebrating my first bonus check. $1,834.18. Isn't it funny how I remember that? You know how long you've been in the business?
A week.
3 weeks.
Wow.
Now, one of the things you'll learn about network marketing, if you haven't already learned it, is everything isn't as it seems. So, $1,874.18 was the rebate that they paid him for personally buying $10,000 worth of product. That's how we did it back then. So Tara asked me to tell you a little bit about what things were like in the prehistoric days, but I'll go through kind of a list of things. But anyway, he drew the circles for me. I didn't get it, but I got enough that I went to meetings. That company was very aggressive. The group had their own building in town. They had opportunity meetings Monday through Thursday, every night of the week, and every Saturday there was an event like this. And I went to those meetings every night, Monday through Wednesday, and I went to 2 Saturday trainings for 3 weeks. I got in on the 3rd Saturday training for 3 weeks before I got in. I went right from the plant. It's hard, Rob, for them to get this, but 530 minutes of doing this. You know, by the Steve and I at the chicken plant, we'd do together. We got so good that we could do 76 BPMs while the other one went and had a smoke.
Wow. Yeah. That's good.
That's how good we got. Well, so forgot even what I was talking about.
You would go to meetings that would cover
Oh,
chicken.
anyway, yeah.
3 weeks.
Well, if you're doing 38 BPMs or you're doing 76 BPMs and you do that for 9.5 hours, you got little pieces of chicken all over you. We had like an apron, rubber boots, all over your pants, all over your shirt, and by 9 hours later, it's dried. So by the end of the day, I had hundreds of little pieces of chicken fat and little pieces of chicken whatever stuck to me, dried, with my rubber boots, like irrigation boots. That's what we wore. That's how I went to the meeting. And I sat in the back of the room while a guy drove to the meeting from Santa Barbara, California, at least twice a week in a brand new Porsche Turbo. Drove to the meeting in a Porsche Turbo, got up on the chalkboard, and showed me how to earn an extra $5,000 a month while I sat in the back of the room with chicken fat stuck to me and my arms crossed and said, "Prove it." And then I got in. Lights go on. Like, one of the things I just, it got into me. If you'll let it get into you, the lights will come on. The lights come on, you get in massive action. If you're not in massive action, just accept it. The lights aren't on. And you're not really going to think your way there. How you're going to get there is expose yourself to people that believe. Like, if you don't believe, number one assignment I would give you is I'd go to Lisa and Tara and I'd say, give me 10 people that believe. I mean, they believe, they bleed belief. Give me 10 people that I can interview. and interview somebody every 3 or 4 days that absolutely is 10 foot tall and bulletproof in this business. Interview them. They'll talk to you. Interview them. Tell me why you believe. Tell me how you believe. How do you see this? Why do you talk to people? Why are you not afraid? What do you see is the result of talking to people? How do you hold this in your body? Just interview them. Why does everybody talk about going to events, going to events, going to events? Because you're immersed in hundreds of believers. Even those of you that don't believe, at events, you act like you believe. Right? So you just immerse yourself in that environment, and sooner or later, my solace gets in you. If my solace gets in you, the lights come on.
Go back to work.
It does. The lights came on for me. I had a truck back then, a 68 Ford 2-tone pickup, blue and rust. I sold it. I went and bought a brand new car. I went into the chicken plant and started recruiting everyone, all the way up to the guy who ran the chicken plant, marched in his office and told him, "You need to come with me. We're getting out of here. We're going to the promised land. We're going to get rich." And he fired me. I can tell you a connection story about that. He fired me. It was 1977, 2 years ago. He's a big golfer. I'm a big golfer. 2 years ago. He's retired now. He calls somebody who knows me and says, "Hey, I'm going to be in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Is Brooke still up there?" That's where I live in the summer. Anyway, I had like the most amazing day of golf with him. 36 years later.
Wow. Crazy.
It was not an "I told you so" moment. It was actually beautiful. It was a beautiful reunion. Interesting. Very interesting day. So anyway, so I'm recruiting everybody, and I'm full-time. I bought a new car, and so now I'm full-time. And you talk about not knowing what to do with my time, because what was I trained to do? What time do you show up? 8. Where are you at 8? You're on the line with your steel mesh glove on and your knife sharp, and you're waiting for the first bird. That's where you are at 8. And when do you leave? 5 or 6:30, depending on whether you're working overtime. And you take a break when they tell you to take a break, and you eat lunch when they tell you to eat lunch, and that's how you are. And all of a sudden, I was full-time. I had no idea what to do. I was just chasing my tail. But, I was excited, and I called a bunch of people, and I prospected a bunch of people, and I recruited some people. In fact, my best leg initially was in Modesto.
Woo! That's where my best leg is.
And that company actually went out of business 9 months after I started. So I know what that feels like in my body. Fortunately, a group of people picked up the same product and continued on with a second company, but I lost everybody in that and had to start over. So if I just fast forward 2.5 years later, let's see, I lived in Merced, Modesto, Fresno. Then, because none of that all worked out, the company went out of business. Then I moved to Tucson, Arizona, because they said if you go to Tucson, good market, Tucson, Arizona. You know how hot it is in Tucson, Arizona? You cannot even leave your fingers on then it was chrome-plated power window buttons long enough to get the windows up. You can't just burn your fingers. The plastic probably won't, but those chrome-plated ones did. So I moved to Tucson. Then I moved to El Paso. I moved in with my sister in El Paso because I was broke. And then they came and got my car. No car. So I'm living on my sister's couch. She's a flight attendant. I'm only working the business when she flies. I take her to the airport, and I go burn her car. I've put like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles on her car while she's flying. Clean it all up when she gets back. Sit on the couch for 4 days. There's nothing else to do. Now, this is like prehistoric, okay? You know what it costs to make a long-distance phone call in 1979 per minute?
$1 a minute.
25 to 30 cents a minute.
Wow.
Yeah, you have no idea. I mean, we used to walk to opportunity meetings barefoot in the snow. So there wasn't anything to do. You didn't call people. Gas was less than $1 a gallon. Long distance telephone, 30 cents. So these are things you want to think about when people show you products like, this is the most amazing, look how simple and cool this is. Yeah, but it costs 30 cents today, but a month from now it's going to cost 3 cents. Then what are you going to do? So I'm living on a couch, repoed car, and then something incredible happened. I could talk a long time about it, but a guy loaned me a car. Not for a day, but he said, drive it, so you don't need to drive it anymore. Which was a miracle, and I've given quite a few cars away as a result of that. Actually, just giving people cars, not loaned them to them. Here's the car and the title and the keys and everything. Because he changed my life by doing that. I wouldn't have made it without that car. He also said, go to Des Moines, Iowa. That's where it's all happening. So I went to Des Moines, Iowa. I was making about $300 or $400 a month, which today might be the equivalent of about $1,000 a month. Just wasn't enough. I'm living in a studio apartment, driving a borrowed car. This is my entire furniture. I have a picture of this somewhere. I have a folding chair, like one of these plastic folding chairs. I have a card table that will seat 4 chairs. I have a Murphy bed that folds out of the wall. I have a telephone. That's it. No other furniture, no other office supplies, no nothing. This is what it was like in the old days. There's no such things as computers. Nobody's ever heard of them yet. There's no such thing as cell phones. There are radio phones that you can have in your car, but they're not cell phones. Because, anyway, there's no UPS. There's no FedEx. You know how you get your product? Common carrier, a truck on a pallet. That's how you get your product. You think you order $100 worth of it? No. You order at least $1,000, $2,000 worth of product every time you order. Because people got their product from you. They didn't get it directly from the company because the company can't ship, they can't ship everybody their product. Their customers didn't. All your customers were local. All your distributors got their product from you, and you bought product $2,000 or $3,000 at a time. When you put somebody into business, there's another thing we didn't have back then. There was no such thing as credit cards. Credit cards didn't actually show up for people to use in about 1984, 85. They didn't have them in 1977. Not only that, but they didn't have the technology to find out whether your personal check was any good. And so unless you knew the grocer or the butcher or the whatever, no company out of state took your personal check. When you got somebody in the business, you took them to the bank to get a cashier's check. That's how you did business. It took 2 weeks to get product. So here I am in Des Moines, Iowa. I got nothing going on. I'm making about $300 a month off of whatever I got, wherever I got it. And one day, I created my entire career. I'm going to just tell you this brief story, and I want you to think about this one day, and I want you to think about you believing, and how you're going to learn to believe by immersing yourself, and then how you're going to know whether or not you do believe is by your stats, not by your mouth, by your stats. And if you're not keeping your stats, because you don't want to keep your stats, you don't want anybody to see your stats. This is all about whether or not you believe. You can just get people to get free, because if you can do that, the whole world is open to you. So one day, in the middle of February, this guy called who had bought a bottle of product from me. This was a $15 gasoline additive. And he wanted more product. He didn't say how much more product. He said he wanted more product. He might have just wanted a bottle. I lived in Urbandale. He lived in Cedar Rapids. That's about a 3-hour drive. It was the middle of February in Iowa. Any Iowans? Can you spell? Snow would be no problem at all. Ice storm. Snow, I'd have gone in a heartbeat. Ice storm. An ice storm in Iowa, you can go down the freeway at 50 miles an hour and just press on the gas and spin your tires. It's just a sheet of ice. So the opportunity for me was get this guy another bottle of product. So it would have been very easy for me, and you want to map this onto the things that you have created for you, very easy for me to decide Well, if I drive all the way there and he just buys another bottle, I've made $4. Or I might drive all the way there and he doesn't even show up, right? I didn't decide that this time because I've been doing some work. It's in this book. And here's what I decided. If I drive through this ice storm, he'll be so impressed and he'll not want me to think about doing it again. Instead of buying a bottle, he'll buy a case. That was $180. Might as well have been $180,000. That's what $180 meant to me right then. And I also thought, if I get there around 11:30, he'll invite me to stay for lunch. Make sense? I get there at 11:30. He says, I can't believe you drove all the way here in the ice storm. I said, well, here I am. He says, what, you want to stay for lunch? Village Inn, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, right on the river. We're having lunch. I also thought if I got him for an hour, sooner or later he's got to ask. Sooner or later, if I got him for an hour, I can pop some kind of question on him. So we're having lunch. He's talking about whatever he's talking about. He, by the way, ran the telephone company in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Now, back then, that meant something. That everybody, if you ran a phone company, you were on TV all the time, everybody in town knew, and you couldn't walk down the street without people knowing Jerry Shaw. Stop him on the street, hey, Jerry, how's it going? He's all involved in everything going on in the city. Today, that's not the case. Phone companies are different. So we're having lunch, sitting there, and somewhere through lunch, I don't remember the context, but he says to me, he says, hey, is there any money in there? And I looked him right in the eye and said, it'll blow your mind. What? Blows mine. He can make $100,000 a month, right? Or $300. Always blows mine. Drew in the circle. Now, I don't know if you've had this experience or not, but I'll never forget how this felt in my body. This was the day I made it. This was the moment I made it. I drew the circles after telling him it would blow his mind. And he looked at those circles and he told me in a way that nobody had ever said it before. I had never said it to myself before. He looked at those circles and he said, I can do that. And I thought to myself, you should. So then he says, what do I do next? We're in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. It's on a Thursday. There's an event like this. The president of the company is speaking on Saturday. That is on a good day, a 6-hour drive. You can't fly it. Not that. Probably still can't now. Not direct. You have to go through Chicago or something. So he says, what do I do next? The defining moment in my career. I said, you have to be there. Did I say you have to be there? No, that would have been weak. That would have been weak. Any idiot would have said you have to be there. I mean, if you've been in a business like a month or two, you just said, well, you have to be there. The president's going to be there. I said, you have to be there with me. And I didn't hesitate on the with me. And he had 2 people there. One of them. Huge. So anyway, this guy's name is Jerry Shaw. And I went from making $300 a month in a borrowed car in a studio apartment. In the next 12 months, he made me $100,000. Yeah, good question. 1979, 1980, which in today's dollars would be $300,000 or $400,000. 1 year. Now, so here I have this question for you. Just forget about $300,000 or $400,000 a year. If you sponsored one person who made you $100,000 in the next year, do you think you could figure out how to sponsor some more people after that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, can you just imagine? Before I sponsored Jerry Shaw, this is how I was known in my company. Oh, here comes Richard Brooke. You know, he's been over here. You know, this is what they'd say. Here's Richard Brooke. He's over here 2.5 years. small company. That was my brand.
Wow.
You know what my brand was 6 months later? I walk in the room. Well, I walk in the room before that, it'd be like, dragging all this baggage behind me. Yeah, I have a car for that. 6 months later, I want to be in a room like this. Yeah. Well, yeah, I sponsored Jerry Shaw. Back out of the way. How did you do it? Well, you gotta come at them with the. Within 3 years, I sponsored 3 more Jerry shops, not quite as big as him, 3 more. I had those days too. There was no seamless opening. You open states the way companies have to open countries today.
Yeah.
State at a time, approved by the Attorney General.
Wow.
Why? Because everyone was a pyramid scheme back then.
Yeah.
It was. You think you got pyramid schemes objections now? You got. Yes, it is, and I'm on top. What do you do? I said, well, you know those pyramid schemes you hear about? Yeah. I'm on top. You may not think that works, but it works. It's not an objection. They actually are looking for a pyramid scheme. They are. Get them to have money rolling in like that? Yeah. I had 30 opportunity meetings a week going on in my group. Like in the same either permanent facility or same hotel room done by the same leader. 30 a week. I had 30,000 active people in my group. And by 1982, I was making $40,000 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, I went on to run that company. Then I parted ways with that company. Just kind of had a meeting at the mines with the owner that it's time for me to go do something bigger than that. And I kept a residual income from that for a while, for that company. Eventually went under. But then I ended up owning a company, which is now 28 years old.
Oh, wow.
In 1992, March of 1992, the first time ever any publication did anything positive on network marketing. It was March of 1992. How many of you weren't even born then?
March 1992.
92. It was huge. March of 1992, Success Magazine, after a year's worth of research on the network marketing industry, did a feature story on this profession. First time any magazine had ever done a positive story. Cover and the feature article inside, all kinds of success stories. Outsold every issue in the 100 years. That magazine, by the way, is now 120 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. Outsold every issue in the 100-year history of Success Magazine. Wow. Guess who was on the cover? And I could go on about my storied career, but the point is, any idiot could have created what I created after sponsoring Jerry Shaw. Any idiot. Anybody could. I didn't do anything special out of that. If you made $400,000 in the next 12 months from somebody you sponsored, could you put together year 2?
Yeah.
I was making $40,000 a month. That would be the equivalent of, I don't know, about $250,000 a month. You're making that out of ViSalus. Do you think you could go on and create some kind of a network marketing career? No. You think you might write a book and give it to a printer with a check and say, print that?
Send it to Oprah.
Now you're an author. Everything I did was the day I sponsored Jerry Shaw. And here's one of the most magnificent gifts this business has. We bring self-esteem, confidence, money, time, credibility, contacts. That's what you bring to this party. That's what you bring to this business opportunity. Some of you don't have a lot of time, some of you do. Some of you have somebody to do the business, some of you don't. Some of you have lots of credibility, some of you don't. Some of you know lots of people, some of you don't. If you add all that up, that's what you bring to the party. On a scale of 1 to 10, what are you? I was a 2. The only reason I was a 2 is I wouldn't quit. I just had no quit in me. None. 0. No quit. I was a 2, though. What are you? How many of you are 5 or less? Tell the truth. If you're 5 or less, you don't even want to raise your hand. But here's the cool thing about this business. This is the opportunity we have. A 2 can sponsor a 4. Now you're 3. Hell, a 2 can sponsor a 10. No, maybe 2 sponsor a 10, you're an 11.